There are many pillars to firefighter well-being. What are they and how do they impact each other?
You can go, Andrew, if you want, mate.
Cool, thank you. So the way I'd approach this, I'll use a model of wellbeing that we use here in New Zealand, and it's called Te Whare Tapa Whā. So that's our Indigenous language, being Māori. And the model was developed by Sir Dr. Mason Jury in the late 90s. So it looks at, I guess, wellbeing as being a whare or a house, and that whare has four sides, which make up four components, or I will say four pillars of wellbeing. So each, and I'll go through each wall of our whare, but it's important to remember that yes, before you build a house or a whare, you need to make sure that the land underneath it is very stable. So the whenua is strong. So you wouldn't build your house necessarily on a uneven ground that's all swampy and horrible. So the house will fall down. So if I look at the four sides, so you've got taha wairua, which is your spiritual health. So your connection to, I guess, what feeds your soul, making things that make you feel well. And it's important that you connect with those. It could be a spiritual thing. It could be just that, as I say, what feeds your soul. So I guess for me, it would be going out in the water, in the ocean, and connecting with nature in that way. Then you've got another part of the wall is your taha tinana, which is your physical health. So how physically well you are. So if you've got sore knees, elbows, and how that can impact on your overall well-being. Then you've got your taha whānau, or your family, and I guess for firefighters, the sense of family, not only your immediate family, but also the fire family. You spend significant amount of time with people, be it in response capability or just hanging around at the station or the whatever. So how that links. And the last one is your taha hini ngaro, or your mental health. So how well you feel psychologically. And what the model looks at, if one part of those four walls of your house or your whare is weak or you're struggling, then it's not going to support the roof, and eventually your whare or your house will fall down. So those four pillars need to be strong, and sometimes we need support to make them strong in order to keep our house solid and stable and stand upright. So that's how I'd look at that question. Over to you, Anthony.
Cool. I'll probably take it from a slightly different perspective, in that I look at, I think to some extent, well-being, particularly in Australia, and the concept has been hijacked somewhat by a lot of people who are I'm not entirely sure of their perspective and their motives in some things, in that in some ways we use a lot of the well-being concept and umbrella as a catch-all to a tick box for employers to say, look, we've got that, we've ticked the box, we've got an employee assistance program or whatever. Here's some yoga and some fruit bowls. Go ahead and do your thing. So I think broadly expanding on what Andy's talking about, which is spot on. I think we need to also start to consider what well-being looks like in the firefighting context. In that, I think we need to split particularly the health into its one silo, whereby we are addressing all those concepts: the mental health, the spiritual readiness, the physical health. But we also need to understand as well that they have to deliver a level of performance within their organisation to not only do their job effectively, but also to do it safely. And a lot of that comes down to, because they interact with each other, so that should there be some sort of injury to the person, that then has impacts onto their lifestyle. So if they're injured, they're then taken off a fire truck. They then lose their concept of self. Those sorts of things. We put them into an environmental. So my PhD was looking at heat stress, and we know that when we expose people to heat at any level, what we do is we see an immune cascade similar to that we see in a clinically depressed population. So what we're actually doing within our lifestyle and our well-being in our jobs, we're actually putting people at risk. And if we're not addressing those things through proactive measures, I think that's where we're starting to fall over. I think the only other way I'd go at the moment is the US Army has gone down the H2F model, and it's exactly as Andy said, with just a little bit more on it. It's their house has 5 arms to it. It's the physical resilience, mental resilience, the spiritual resilience, but it also focuses on sleep and the critical impact of sleep on health and well-being, and also nutrition, about when we eat, why we eat, how we do that, because all of those things, when they're not working together, we have massive impacts on people. The only other thing I think we need to do is we need to delineate the difference between what you're required to do for your job. So there's a very physical element to the job, and I worry somewhat when you see with the Twitters and the Facebooks about the whole concept of you've got to be fit, otherwise your mates are going to let your mates down, someone's going to die, as opposed to going to the core of why people are there and what they want to be. And I think that does go directly to the core. And Andy's got some great words with the Maori language that explain a lot of this stuff. But what exactly is a person? What drives that person, and how do we support them in that drive? That would be my sort of answer to that question.